Sister, oh my goodness, last week's episode was over the top fun as we broke down the Three Amigos with our special guest, Josh Denson, your friend, former boss. He was a hoot, sister. I mean, I wanted to just sit and listen to him. It was so much fun to record with him.
I agree. He knows the Three Amigos like scene by scene. Literally, if you listened last week, you know that.
Didn't he tell you as soon as he knew that we had a podcast, like, I want to do the Three Amigos?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he loves it. It was perfect.
It was.
But let's just say we've made a sharp left turn. No singing cowboys, no cheerful campfires, and no happy riding off into the sunset type of ending.
Yep, you're right. This week we have Hollywood royalty, some intense mother-daughter moments, and those infamous wire hangers. And speaking of mother-daughter moments, we have a very special guest this week, too.
We do. In fact, she's the specialist guest of all.
That's right.
I think we've ever had.
That's right.
It is our sweet Mama Lottie. Lottie Vance is with us. And if you haven't guessed by now, we are diving into the world of Mommie Dearest with its high drama and glamorous Hollywood moments. So let's get going. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Missy. And this is Real Sisters Rewind.
Join us as we go back to the 80s.
Welcome to Real Sisters Rewind, back to the 80s, the podcast for people who love movies and wish they were as good now as they were back then. We're two sisters who grew up on these films, and we're having the best time rewatching and reliving them with all of you. I'm Missy.
And I'm Amanda. We are so glad you're here. If you're enjoying the podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and tell your movie-loving friends to check us out. And don't forget, if you leave us a review, take a screenshot and email it to hello@realsistersrewind.com so we can send you one of our Real Sister stickers.
All right, sister. Well, as we already said, today's extra special to us because our very important and prestigious guest is joining us, our mama, Lottie Vance.
Woohoo, woohoo. And because this is coming out as our Mother's Day episode, which is hysterical, we thought it would be fun to have our sweet mama on with us. Mom, we are so excited that we got you to come on with us today. Woo-hoo.
Welcome, mama.
I'm excited to be here. I don't know how you talked me into this. And I love doing it with my baby girls.
Oh,
well, we're making a memory.
We're making a memory. And I will say, Mom, if I remember correctly, when I talked to you this week and I said, oh, Mom, are you going to be you're going to be joining us for the podcast this week, or I hear you're going to be. And you said, well, it really wasn't asked. I was told.
That's true.
That's what big sisters do, right, Amanda?
That's right. They just boss you around and you just do what they say.
If only. Well, all right, everyone. Let's go back to 1981 and set the scene for what was going on in the world when our movie Mommie Dearest came out, and we'll share some fascinating facts too.
Mommie Dearest premiered nationwide on September 25th. Oh, so close to my birthday, 1981. And that means I had just turned 5, only 5 days earlier on the 20th. And Missy, you were 13?
Yes. And Mom, you were. I'm just kidding.
You don't have to say that.
You were
No, you were young.
But the question really is, Mom, I know you've listened to our podcast some. We always talk about if we saw it in theaters, and I did not. Sister, I know you didn't. And Mom, I kind of don't think you did. Did you see this in theaters, Mom? Or do you really?
I think I did. Mm-hmm.
And,
really?
Well, what do you remember about it? Who did you go with?
It was scary to me.
Yeah, it is scary.
I mean, it really, I did not enjoy it. It was depressing and dark to me.
Do you
But I
do you
never
know who
really-
you went to the movies to see it with?
I have no idea.
Probably your girlfriends
Probably
or
Aunt
something.
Teresa or Aunt Sis.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Maybe one of your sisters or both of your
Or
sisters.
both. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Amanda, do you remember the first time you saw it?
So I guess it was the first time I saw it. I think that we were still in our old house, the one that was where our address was Purvis, but we lived in Oak Grove, that house.
Yes.
And I remember it being on TV. Like, I feel like I was up one night, like I had a stomach virus or something, like I wasn't feeling good. And so I was able to lay down on the couch and watch TV. And it was on like one of the channels, like TBS or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that it was a true story because I caught it just like it, probably in the middle of the story.
Right.
I didn't realize it was true. And I didn't really know like who Joan Crawford was or whatever. But I remember I was in it. I was like, who is this nut? Like it was, and it stuck with me because then when it came on, whenever I caught it again, anytime it was on after that, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. And then I realized as I was older that it was Joan Crawford and it was true. And it, all the pieces fit together a little bit more. But I remember from the first time I saw it being like, this is wackadoo.
Yeah.
She's a nut, Amanda.
And she was a nut.
She was a nut, Mom. That's one of your favorite sayings, but she really was. And I don't remember the first time I saw it. What I remember about it is we owned this at some point because I remember having and seeing the big VCR or Betamax tape that had that face on it with the eyebrows and the lips. And of course, I was a teenager, so we joked and laughed about wire hangers and things like that. But I don't really have a recollection of it. But I have to say, I hadn't seen it in a long time. And this rewatch I really enjoyed the rewatch, which I know we'll talk about, but I really did.
I did too. But you saying that, Missy, about joking about the no wire hangers, that's a thing. Like even now, I would say to, like to my girls, I'd be joking about cleaning their room or whatever. And I'm like, hangers. Of course, they don't know what I'm talking about.
Right. They really don't know where it's from, the reference?
No, they've never seen it.
Okay, so here's a question. Because I know Savannah doesn't have wire hangers in her closet. She's got like the felt fancy kind. I have the white plastic kind in mine. Do y'all have wire hangers in your closets?
Yep.
Some. A few.
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't have any wire hangers. Now I wouldn't throw a fit if I saw one, but I do go out of my way to not have wire hangers in my closet.
Well, now let me just say a little twist here, because you know how I've got two separate closets. The one closet where all my main clothes are, no wire hangers.
Okay.
The other closet, my pants where my jeans and stuff hang up, I don't have wire hangers. Eric has some stuff in there, and he will keep a wire hanger. So
yeah,
it's by default. Like they're not mine. I don't claim them. But Maddie,
I'll switch
she just
those
has a
things
mix.
out and throw them. I'll throw those wire hangers away. I don't throw a fit, but
great.
I don't like them. I don't like the way they feel on my hands. I'm surprised you have any wire hangers, Mom.
Well, I have some that I use for like Jeff's t-shirts and
yeah.
We use them in the laundry room, like to hang up clothes to dry. So here is a little tidbit for you all. And Missy, you're going to love this.
Let me hear it.
The number one song on the radio that week, My Endless Love.
Oh my gosh. I used to think I wanted that sung at my wedding. My love, there's only you in my life.
It's a good one.
It's a great song.
It's a beautiful song.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And that means that Endless Love is a 1981 movie because this is 81, either late 80s or
it was attached to a movie?
The movie with Brooke Shields, Endless Love?
Yeah, I don't know that.
Oh, we're totally rewinding it. Totally
that, Mom?
rewinding it.
Have you seen that?
I don't remember it. I remember the music.
Yeah, I do too.
I snuck and watched it one night when I was babysitting late.
Is it bad?
Well, it's like somehow she and this cute boy, the cute boy with blonde hair, his name's Christopher something, they like get washed up on this.
That is not Endless Love. That's Blue Lagoon.
Oh, that's Blue Lagoon. Oh, Endless Love is something about, I think she loved an older man or something.
No,
I don't remember.
That's the one her mom put her in, where she's like a prostitute baby.
No, that's when she was much younger.
That was bad. That
Brooke
was really
Shields
bad.
is in Endless Love, and I may be wrong. And if I am, the real fans will let us know. So let's keep going. We were talking about popular music. Let's talk about the magazine that is. It
tells it all.
The ledger of what was happening during time. And it's one of the strangest People magazine covers I've ever seen.
I know. I'm thinking the same thing.
Because it's the 29 best and worst dressed people in the world. And so they've got these random people on the magazine. They've got the dark-haired lady from Dallas, and they named her.
It's Linda Gray, isn't it?
Yeah, Linda Gray. That's right. And they gave her the name Prime Time Panache. And then they've got Princess Di, and they've named her Royal Flush. And then they've got Christopher Reeve on and named him Cinema Chic. I know.
He looks so cute.
And then they've got Bo Derek. They called her Savoir Bear. And then they've got an orangutan on it. Like, it's the strange.
So, Missy, I was going to tell you, okay, so I'm so glad you said that's Bo Derek. Because that's the girl that I had in my mind that looks just like that girlfriend on Cocktail. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know who the girlfriend on Cocktail is, but
the very first time we see her on the beach, she has that bikini on.
Oh, wait, you mean the old girlfriend, the girlfriend that is the rich woman?
Yes,
yeah, okay,
the rich chick. Yeah. Remember, because we talked about, I was like, oh, it's that Bo Jackson, and you were like, no, it's Bo Derek. That's Bo Derek.
Yeah, that is Bo Derek. Yes.
Well, that's what I was talking about. That right there.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think it's a strange cover. They've got like.
Where's that man on the bottom?
I don't know who it is, but it says they named him the Power Elite, so he must be in government or something like that.
Huh. Yeah, it's quite a we'll have to post this on socials this week. Sometimes it's a good one to post.
Yeah,
for sure.
Mom, we always talk about People magazine, but equally as up on the trends of the time was TV Guide. And man, we didn't go a week without our TV Guide growing up.
Yeah, we had a subscription.
We did. And every week, what did you always do in that TV Guide?
Must have been a crossword puzzle.
Oh, yes, ma'am. You did that crossword puzzle in the TV Guide.
She's the crossword queen, like I said. But it's funny, Mom, because Missy talks about the TV Guide a lot. And of course, I remember it. I never used it by the time I was really like able to be the person in charge of the TV. At that point, there was like a guide.
Yeah.
On the TV, but Missy, says that you had to use it all the time.
Loved it.
I still think they should have a TV guide.
I know. I mean, we looked forward to getting that thing in the mail every week and seeing who was on the cover, and they advertised movies sometimes in it. I mean, it was great. TV Guide was great.
It was an exciting time.
It was.
Well, here, I like to get my history in. Mom, you'll appreciate this.
Mom
because
loves history too.
You're also a history buff. History was actually being made in the United States. Sandra Day O'Connor had just been sworn in as the first female justice of the United States Supreme Court. I think we may have mentioned this before, just like
I think it was during Arthur, because Arthur was also in 1981. And if you remember, Reagan had written in his diary, it was noted that he had written in his diary that he wanted to appoint her.
Yes. And I just think, it's Mother's Day. We've got the ladies on here. This is a big celebration for us that she was being sworn in as the first female justice. And now there's been many after her.
Yeah.
So I
Do
think
you
that's
remember this,
awesome.
Mom?
Yeah, was it a big deal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
I don't know, and Mom, you might, Amanda, you might, because y'all are both into history, and I am not. But well, I'm guessing since Ronald was appointing her, she was probably more conservative than liberal, or
Oh,
she
yeah.
was. Okay.
Oh, are you and Ronnie on first name basis?
No, but I do know that he was a conservative president.
I know that you're like, well, when Ronald was sworn in.
Mom, we mentioned this a while ago when I was talking about having the tape of Mommie Dearest, but this is about the time that families were starting to bring VCRs into their homes. It was a big deal. You could not have to wait for the Friday night movie of the week or Sunday night movie of the week. You were finally able to rent those movies and watch them on their own time. But Mom,
This is a big question, Mom. This is serious.
you know what I'm asking, don't you, sister?
I sure do.
We didn't have a VCR.
No, we didn't have a VHS.
Right.
We had a VCR.
Right.
But go ahead.
Ours was a Betamax. So that meant we couldn't borrow movies from 98% of people that we knew. Talk about why you went with the Sony Betamax rather than, I guess it was a Panasonic VHS.
Also, I have to say, not only could you not borrow when you went to the little gas station curb store, rent a video, you had to make sure they had the one you wanted.
There were fewer choices. Oh yeah. So talk about that, Mom.
Well, because when I went to McClellan TV to buy it,
shout out to McClellan's.
They're no longer in business.
Oh,
but
okay.
Anyway, because they were the top of the line that TV stereo place in Hattiesburg. And Doug McClellan taught me into the Betamax. And it was like twice as much as the VHS.
Really?
But he said it was the best. So,
and that was going to be the wave of the future.
So that's what I bought.
And not only did we have the Betamax player, we also had the video camera eventually with the Betamax tapes.
Yeah, because they were compatible.
Exactly, which means that all of those movies that were on Betamax, because it was the thing of the future, are basically
obsolete.
Obsolete.
That's true.
So, Mom, I'm sure Daddy too would have been like, "You need to get the one that's the wave of the future."
Oh,
so he would have totally
get the best one.
Yeah, get the best one. Okay, so first of all, I do wonder, like, why VHS survived but Betamax didn't, and what was
it was more economical.
It was much more economical.
Okay, so people
the Betamax was 2.5 or 3 times more than the VHS.
People just didn't catch on to it. I wonder what made it so much better.
I don't know.
Because I like the quality that, I mean, now who would know, but maybe then it was the quality.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, it could have been the salespeople behind it telling their clients that it's the wave of the future and it's the best. Yeah. But no, that was such a great time when you could start renting movies and bringing them home, and
it was the best.
Watching them and watching them over and over, and it was
like Dirty Dancing. We watched a gazillion times.
Oh, we wore it out. Wore it out.
We watched it a few times.
Yeah. Yes, a few.
So I know we've got to get into the movie, but I was going to tell you, you ladies, this. I love to go back and put in the week that our movie came out and research commercials. And on I've said this before, but on YouTube, you can find like 30-minute long videos where people just have like where they recorded commercials and they show them. So I was looking at commercials, hoping I might find something fun to bring to the podcast to our real fans. But something caught my eye, and I couldn't worry about commercials anymore because, Amanda, I've mentioned this before on real sisters.
Yes. What?
The movie Kramer versus Kramer, which was a 1979 movie.
Right.
But
And we're
it
going to try to
won a
figure
lot of awards in 1980.
80.
Right.
Sure.
But we haven't broken the rule yet of 80s movies. Not that we won't, but we haven't. But y'all, there was a commercial for Kramer versus Kramer, and it was revisit it again. It was like saying how great it had been. Go back and see it again
at the theater
in 1981, and it came to the theaters.
So it was a
coming
re-release.
Back to a theater near you soon.
Well,
so what
I
does
think
that mean?
We can do it.
It means we can do Kramer versus Kramer. Mom, do you remember that movie? Did you go see it? Do you remember me talking about it? Oh my god.
It was a great movie.
It was so good. I mean, and Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep. We'll save it. But you talking about that release, Missy? And I know it may be every now and then that happens nowadays, but that used to be a thing in the 80s. I know for sure for me growing up with like Disney movies. Like every few years they would bring back Snow White or Cinderella.
Bring them out of the vault.
Yes. And I loved that. You would get to go watch this, movie that, we didn't get to watch it at that time. It was before the VCRs.
Right.
And
you only got to see it if it was re-released.
Re-released.
They did that with the VCR tapes.
Yeah, they would.
Right.
Cut them off.
Mm-hmm.
But, they did that not long ago at the Cinemark Theater here. They brought back, like, Chris and I went to see Wizard of Oz on the big screen. And so they were bringing back some older movies to the big screen. And, with movie attendance down, I think that's a smart plan because, they just don't make them now like they used to. Like, that would be a great plan if you owned a movie theater to bring some of these greats back.
Yeah, I would like to see some of those on the big screen rather than some of the stuff that comes out now.
Oh my gosh. Chris and I wanted to go to the movie the other day, and literally I'm like, there's nothing I would pay to go see. There's nothing I would pay to go see. It's horrible.
It's horrible. All right. Well, let's start chatting about the movie itself. I've got some great scoop for y'all as we talk about this. But Mommie Dearest was released nationwide, like we said, September 25th, 5 days after my birthday, 1981.
Amanda, I want to interrupt you for a second because I kept finding different dates. And I was like, when was this movie released? Apparently, it was released in scattered parts on September 18th. And that's why it says nationwide on the 25th.
So movies,
that's the way they used to do a lot of movies.
Oh,
yeah.
They would be released like in Los Angeles and Chicago, New York.
And then
in a couple of weeks, they would release them nationwide.
Then it would come to the old general population.
Yeah, to us Mississippi folks.
Yes, I was just about to say that, Mom. And because I didn't necessarily remember that, but I have seen it on some of our research when I've been looking at some of the movies. So that makes sense. So nationwide, it was released September 25th of 81. It was directed by Frank Perry. And the screenplay, this is so interesting. The screenplay was written by Christina Crawford, Frank Perry, and Frank Yablans. Now, here's why I said that's so interesting. Because Christina Crawford was her daughter that wrote the book, the memoir, which I'm sure we're going to get into. But she has also since said, and we're going to talk about some of these discrepancies, but that the movie portrayed her mother in a much, much harsher light than she actually was, and as more in a harsher light than she was even in the memoir she wrote. But now I'm thinking, well, girl, you helped write the screenplay. So
they made a lot of edits though.
Okay. Because I'm like,
didn't have complete freedom.
Okay. Because when I'm reading that, I'm like, but that didn't make sense. But now that does. Okay.
Yeah. So as we know, Faye Dunaway starred as Joan Crawford. And then you had Diana Scarwood, who played adult Christina, and Mara Hobel, who played the precious young Christina. She was precious.
She was
She was so cute.
so cute. Do you think they bleached her hair?
I don't know. Yours was that blonde when you were little.
But she was very tan. I don't know. It reminded me a little bit of the girl who played Cindy Brady, like her hair. And I know that girl's hair got bleached. So I don't know. I'm going to look that up.
I don't know. You'll have to do some research on that.
Yeah, I'm
sister.
going to look that up. Well, as I said, the movie was based on the memoir that was written by Christina Crawford, one of her adopted daughters, and it did not paint a very flattering picture of Joan Crawford. And here's a couple of things I want to add to this. So the movie, and I think I've kind of figured out why some of this is. So the movie portrayed Christina and Christopher as her two adopted children.
Mm-hmm.
She actually adopted 5 children.
Mm.
One of them pretty quickly ended up going back to its biological parents. And Mom, I talked to you about this and I was wrong. Christopher was with her. So it ended up being Christina and Christopher. And then there were 2 other girls, Christy and Kathy. Now, I think this is just real fans. Don't quote me on this because I could be wrong. But I believe that the reason Cindy and Kathy, those are the 2 other girls, Cindy and Kathy were not, and I believe they were twins. But the reason they're not in the film is because I don't think they had the same issues with the mother, with Joan, as Christina and Christopher. And so I think they've even come out kind of like against the memoir and said it wasn't true and it was very extreme and that the movie wasn't true. And so they may have just like not wanted, explicitly, like, I don't want to be a part of that. But what I did find out was true. Joan Crawford did cut Christina and Christopher out of the will in real life and it was just like the movie said, reasons they will know. And did actually cut Christina's hair when she got caught playing in the makeup. And she did replace Christina Crawford on the soap opera when Christina had to be out for surgery.
Which we will be talking about. We will be talking about. Okay, 2 things. Number one, I read it and then I couldn't go back and find it. So Amanda, you can jot this down. We'll put this on social. Christina and Christopher's name wasn't originally Christina and Christopher. It was like Joan Jr. and then a man's name Jr. But it wasn't Greg Jr. But originally that isn't their names. Now that could be wrong, but I know I saw it, but I couldn't go back and find it. Here's the other thing.
Yeah.
And this has nothing to do with Joan Crawford. But when I was a little girl, I used to pretend I had 2 dolls and they were Michelle Christina and Michael Christopher. And I played like they were twins. And so that made me think of that when we saw Christina and Christopher. And I remember when I married a Michael Christopher that I was like, Lord, I don't want twins. I was pretending when I had Michael Christopher as a doll. I don't really want Christina and Michael Christopher. And that's a side note. And our editor may cut that out.
It's funny.
Do you remember me, Mom, playing like I had twins? All right, y'all. Well, the movie was rated PG and had a runtime of 2 hours and 9 minutes. Now, here's the thing. It was originally not approved for PG. And the MPAA said it had to be R.
It should have been.
Appealed it, and they didn't cut one thing. But on the appeal, they said, okay, we'll label it PG.
I feel like it should have been R. I mean, I know there was no nudity or real, like, there may have been
there
like
was
a
one
couple
F-bomb for sure.
But it was pretty violent.
It was. And as Mom said, dark and disturbing. And the budget was reported to be somewhere between $5 and $10 million, and it made just over $9 million at the box office.
Wait, sister, 9 or 19 million?
19. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, 19.
Because that's better.
Yeah. Also, it definitely was an award-winning movie. but not the good kind. It was nominated for 9 Golden Raspberry Awards,
Which is not
the
good.
good kind, Mom. And it won 5, including Worst Picture and Worst Actress for Faye Dunaway. So she won it. And here's the thing. She thought when she accepted this role that it was going to be an Oscar winning performance. And as part of her contract, she required Paramount to take trade ads in like Variety magazine and the Hollywood Reporter, touting her as an Oscar nomination as Best Actress. And so talk about falling from grace.
I think I have to ask you, Mom, about this because not about the award part of it, but I'm just thinking. So Faye Dunaway at the time was a popular actress. When this movie came out, was she like older at this time? Like she had kind of gotten out of her prime, or was she still like a really popular actress?
I would imagine, Amanda, she was still a pretty popular actress. I don't
But
think
she was,
she,
right, a popular actress. Am I just like dreaming that?
she was.
She was well known, right?
She was very well known.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I thought she did a fantastic, excellent job.
I know, but this was not critically acclaimed.
Yeah.
People did not like
It's
this.
because it was so dark.
Well, I think that, but I think people also thought it was almost like I don't know, just over the top, like almost like, I know not satire, that's not the right word, but I think people were almost like, this is, really over the top. But I agree with you, Mom. I think she did a great job.
I do too.
I mean,
I
I think she was phenomenal. And obviously she didn't win an Oscar, but we're still talking about it all these years later. And I do think from my research and what I read, and just knowing everybody I mean, everybody's seen this movie and knows quotes from it. I do think, like a lot of 80s movies, it has gotten sort of a cult following. So even though maybe at the time it wasn't critically acclaimed, I think there are some pretty powerful things in it. And like I said, we're still talking about it all these years later. So
yeah, that's true.
That says something. All right. So behind the scenes stuff is wild. Okay. As you can imagine. For starters, this is one of those situations we've talked about before, sister and Mom. Sometimes these actors just really take it all the way. They become the character, and she became Joan Crawford. She had to be in the makeup chair every morning at 4 a.m. just to transform into that look.
Yeah, she did. But according to, and I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, so forgive me, but it's Rutanya Alda, who played Carol Ann, like her assistant, I guess you would say. According to her, and actually a lot of people on the set, Faye Dunaway was despised by the crew due to her unpleasant attitude. Rutanya said that Joan Crawford got her way often, but she did it in a ladylike way. But Faye was despised because she was so rude to people. Everyone was on pins and needles with her when she worked, and everyone relaxed when she wasn't around. And Rutanya said, I wish Faye had learned from Joan. And so Betty Davis apparently had said something, and you might remember this, Mom, from back in the day, but she had done multiple interviews where she said how rude and unprofessional Faye Dunaway was.
That's
I do
interesting.
remember.
You do remember that?
I do. Mm-hmm.
I mean, because here she is portraying this like villain, but yet she was the one who was acting villainous in real life.
Well, I know. And I'm like kind of surprised to hear them say, like, oh, Joan got her way in real life and she was so ladylike. Well, that is not how she was portrayed in the movies. That is very interesting.
Yeah.
But Amanda, when they had scenes with her with the public or with
True.
she was very nice to them.
That's true.
True. She knew how to play the game for sure when she was
Mhm.
around other people and not behind closed doors where nobody was watching. And they do portray it that way. So you're right, Mom. That's a good point. Even in, well, we can talk about it when we get to that scene, but that there's just a couple of scenes that make me think about that. Faye Dunaway mentions in her autobiography that she screamed herself hoarse during the filming for the notorious wire hanger tantrum scene in this movie. She called Frank Sinatra for
She
help.
just called her friend Frank.
Just called Frank, and he gave her some pointers on how to get her voice back into shape.
Well, I know we've got to go to the actual scene by scene, but I want to just share this because I thought this was so cool. It may not mean anything to you, Amanda, but for those of us who grew up on these two sitcoms, it will mean a lot. The set of the soap opera, and Mom, you'll get this. The set of the soap opera where Christina performs is the same exact set of the Cunningham home from Happy Days. As a matter of fact, the kitchen, they didn't change it at all. It's identical. So in that scene, it's from Happy Days. And then Mom, do you remember what came on right after Happy Days every Tuesday night? It was two girls.
Oh, Laverne and Shirley.
Laverne and Shirley. So ironically, the scene where Joan goes to Christina's apartment, when she gets out of the cab, that building behind her, which when I watched it, I was like, that looks familiar. It's the same exact exterior used for Laverne and Shirley's Milwaukee apartment when they stood outside and said, Schlemiel, Schlemazel, Up Incorporated. We're gonna do
it.
And that it's actually at Paramount Studios. But I thought that was a cool extra little trivia to add before we jumped in.
As a kid, I didn't like Laverne and Shirley. Everybody else did, but I didn't. I mean, I liked that little lavage, bisha, babagoo.
But we used to always try to do it where one would go down while one went up. All right, sister, let's take it into the movie and see what happens in Mommie Dearest. The movie opens up with Joan Crawford waking up in basically the middle of the night, and it's her morning routine. And sister, it is intense.
Yep, and this is where I had my first clue that I think she was OCD, and I looked it up, and it's did say she was not ever that we know of officially diagnosed with it, but she was very symptomatic of someone with OCD.
Yeah.
So she scrubs her face raw. Like it was hurting me to watch with
that brush.
That brush.
It looked like something you'd use on a horse, didn't it, Mom?
Well, I mean,
or an animal.
And she even it's the kind you use on your fingernails. And the water was so hot. It was like steaming. And she even started it was like she was a surgeon. She was like washing her hands all the way up her arms. And then she pulls out this bowl with alcohol. She pours some alcohol with ice and plunges her face in it to I guess close up all her pores.
I've done that before I didn't know it was alcohol. I just thought it was water, but I've taken ice and water and thinking I was doing great things for my pores. And I always think of that when I do it.
It is supposed to be great, but I don't want to do it every morning at, 3:30 in the morning.
I don't want to do it at all.
Mom, did you know that was alcohol?
Yes, you saw her pour it in.
I missed it. I guess I thought it was bottled water or something. I just missed it. I mean, I knew it whenever we were doing the research for the movie, but the first time I watched it.
You just thought it was water.
I just thought it was water.
By the way, do you think she had a little refrigerator under her couch?
Oh, she definitely did. Yes.
Like a little freezer?
She opened it up. Because I rewound it and watched that, and I thought, oh, that'd be good to have. So that would be a luxury.
Y'all can keep your Diet Cokes in there.
Because I want a Diet Coke every time before I get in a hot bath. I go and turn my bath on, and I go to my Diet Coke fridge,
Is
I
it in your
grab a
bathroom?
cold Diet Coke. I take a couple of sips. I set it by my sink and I get in the bathtub. I don't know what it is. I'm like Pavlov's dog.
Easy.
That made Mom thirsty. She's drinking her red water as we say that. Well, part of her morning routine is she does all of that and then she gets in her shower. And I have to say, I didn't notice it when I was young, but that is a fancy shower. I was like, I would like that now, although I prefer a bath. But so she gets all ready and then we see her getting ready to leave. And I paused it to look at this like iconic, perfect shot of her walking down the stairs. She has that white coat on. The stairs are white. It's very dramatic. It's very glamorous. She's got her hood pulled up and she's, just another day headed to work.
And Missy, it actually, so it just, I mean, I'm only pointing this out because the time period, it's actually not her hood. She grabs a silk scarf, a white silk scarf,
Oh,
and
okay.
puts it, which makes sense because that would have been what
Yeah.
in Joan Crawford's time period she would have done. And just to let our real fans know, if you haven't ever seen this movie and we're talking about this opening scene where all this is happening, but we have not seen her face yet.
Oh, that's right.
We've only seen her hands and the back of her, but we have not seen her face.
Until she
So-
stands on that stairway.
But we haven't seen an uncovered face yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she goes, like you said, and we even see her here. She's being driven to the studio, and in the back, she's reading her script. She's signing autographs for fans, and then
On
we
her
go
picture, on her black and white glossies.
on her black and white glossies. Then we see her go into the makeup studio. She's getting her makeup put on, and somebody knocks on the door and says, "They're ready for you, Miss Crawford." This is when
That's when we see
actually
her face.
she turns around and she's like, "Let's go."
Yes, I remember.
And I wanted to
that.
be like,
I
"Let's
love
go,
it.
girls."
All right, Mom, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Because growing up for us, like the black and white glossies, it was a little bit in my time where you would maybe write to a singer or a star and you'd get a black and white glossy. Amanda, it probably wasn't much of yours at all.
No.
But Mom, do you remember that being a big deal? And did you ever get a black and white glossy of a star that you admired?
No.
No?
And no.
No. Did you want one?
No.
I remember at Aunt Sis's house, they had a bunch of pictures of black and white pictures of like stars and stuff, like rodeo stars and country music stars. I know for sure they had one of Johnny Cash and they had one of Roy Rogers at Aunt Sis's house.
I was just about to say, I bet they had one of Roy Rogers. I don't
Yes,
know
ma'am.
why.
8x10 black and whites. And then some people I didn't
never
know.
knew that.
Yes. They had it like, so you remember before we had frames for everything. Sometimes people, they would have the vanities and they would, the mirror is in the vanity.
Uh-huh.
And so you would stick the picture like in the mirror vanity and
Yeah.
it was stuck in the mirror vanity, like over to the side.
Of like Johnny Cash?
Yes, autographed.
That is wild. I bet Daddy had one of Conway Twitty.
No, he did.
I know who he did have one for, though, Mom. Remember when Daddy, and I don't know how this happened, but he was like a part investor for a guy who wanted to become a singer.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think it was country music, but maybe it was. We had some 8x10 glossies, whatever that guy's name was. Was it Randy or Rodney or something like that? Do you remember that, Mom?
I don't remember his name, but I don't remember having 8x10 glossies.
Oh, yeah, we did. Dad had them in a manila envelope. He was passing them out to people. I remember that very clearly. Yes.
Daddy. Oof.
Well,
funny.
She's at work and she's done the work. And then the next major scene, we see her at her house scrubbing the floor. And I have to say, I've never seen anybody scrub quite like she scrubbed. She's got on her jeans and an apron and her heels. And she's on her hands and knees. And I couldn't help but notice in that scene her huge portrait of herself. above the fireplace. That's all we really need to know, isn't it?
Well, yeah, between that and the scrubbing, you're like narcissist, OCD.
Yes.
Moving on.
Yes.
Absolutely. She's so obsessed. Again, this is just feeding into this OCD, obsessed with the cleanliness. She tells the maid Helga that because she's like going around and giving everything like the white glove treatment.
Yes, she
and
is.
They're like following her around.
That's what Mom used to do every Monday and Wednesday, Friday to me whenever I would have to dust every Monday.
Mom, did you really do a white glove treatment?
No.
Okay.
Okay, but Mom, did you dust every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of us growing up? Yes or no?
I don't remember.
Mother, you are telling us.
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
Okay.
Real Sisters tells the truth.
She's laughing. She can't.
I guess.
Yes. The answer, real fans, is yes. My mom, our mom, was a homemaker. She took it very seriously and
she was excellent.
Pride. She was excellent. And let me tell you, she was on a schedule, and every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the floors got swept, mopped, the floors got vacuumed, and things got dusted. And let me tell you, our house was always a very nice and clean place, but we had no Mommie Dearest qualities.
No. Now, real quick on this, if that was Monday, Wednesday, what was Tuesday, Thursday?
She just
visited,
had a few little doings
Tupperware,
to get done.
Tupperware
Maybe a
parties.
Tupperware party. Or,
Thursdays was grocery day.
Okay.
Because we had to go to town.
And then what was Tuesday, Mom?
Tuesday must
probably
have been my day
ironing.
off.
Probably laundry and ironing.
It may have been, yes.
Laundry was just about every day.
Yeah.
Well, she was amazing. And now, Mom, do you still do Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule?
She is more laid back in her days. But Amanda, I interrupted you. You were talking about her giving the white.
Yeah, so she was given the white glove treatment, and everything's going well, and you're like, okay, whoo, until all of a sudden she sees the plant, and she goes over and moves the plant, and there's a ring around the floor that Helga did not get, and she's like, when you polish the floor, you have to move the tree, Helga. And she gets down on her hands and knees, and she's like, give me the cleaner, let me show you how it's done. And she's like, starts cleaning the circle from the tree.
Yeah, she really loses it. And something, I heard her say this at one part. I don't think it was during the cleaning scene, but she says something about Ma, I guess talking about her mom, Ma, and something about being disgusting. And it made me think, this is coming from a deep place in her childhood. Did y'all hear that? Either one of y'all?
I did. It was when she and the guy were walking on the beach.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she was talking about how dirty her mom was. Yes. Their house or wherever they lived.
That's right.
She was talking about how dirty it was, and it was just disgusting.
Yes.
So it definitely came from somewhere.
Well, that's a great segue, Mom, into talking about Greg Herbo, because as she's having this, what would you say, Amanda, an intimidation, a temper tantrum with Helga and her new assistant, Carol Ann, right? Greg Herbo shows up. He comes in and she looks at him like, don't walk in my house and not take off your shoes. Or either she maybe even told him.
She says to him, I just cleaned that floor. Take off your shoes. Yes. She said that.
And as he walks in with his shoes off, they head straight upstairs, and more than his shoes came off. And they got in to that fancy shower, and maybe they were cleaning it. I don't know.
They were cleaning something. Well, we then see Joan. This is what you were talking about, Mom, and they were walking on the beach. She and Greg are having their little walk. And it's so weird because we've seen her act a little nutty, and then she's just normal. in these other moments, and she's just being normal, walking on the beach with him. She opens up about wanting to have a baby and that she's had multiple miscarriages and just can't have children. And I'm already thinking, girl, if you are having this much trouble with dirty floors, you don't need to be having any babies in your house.
And there's nothing clean about babies except for like the 5 minutes they smell like heaven after a bath, right? When you put that Johnson and Johnson's baby lotion on them. Well, Greg just tells her right then, because she's talking about that she can't have babies and she wants to adopt. He says, you're not going to be accepted. And guess what? She is indeed denied adoption through legal channels. And so she gets Greg to pull some of his lawyer strings to get a baby, and she adopts Christina.
Now, wait a minute. Let me just say this, because I thought it was interesting
Okay.
that she was denied, and you say through the legal channels. It was like, I think it was possibly like the Catholic Church or nuns, because one of the things is that she had been divorced.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
And they were just not having it.
And she worked a lot, and she would be single, and she'd leave them. But one of the things I wanted to say about this is that when they delivered that baby, first of all, everything was perfect, which, Amanda, goes with the OCD stuff that you thought. I thought perfectionism, but OCD is such a better way to describe it. But everything was perfect for this baby. And then, it definitely is old-fashioned that they're going to deliver, the doctor and the nurse are going to deliver her baby. But Mom, when they walked in with that baby, that nurse in her old-fashioned uniform with her cape and her nursing hat placed perfectly on her head made me think of your mom, Granny Bell, because I remember her in that, I almost said costume, in that uniform.
Yeah.
Did you think of Granny Bell when you saw that?
No, I didn't. But they always had to wear the hat. The hat, the white hose, the white shoes, and the white. They didn't wear. Now, a while before she retired, they got to where they could wear white pants. But before then, they had to wear the white dress.
Skirt.
Yeah.
Dress. Did she have a cape like that?
Yes. She did.
Yes, she did.
She surely did.
They were so beautiful. Like it was
almost glamorous.
I know. I loved it.
The hat was all stiff. You know, that couldn't have been comfortable to have on your head all day, but it's so official looking. Like it was cool to watch.
Yes,
well,
I agree.
After that scene, the movie jumps ahead.
Sister, wait. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting you, but I do have to say this one thing because I think this is important.
Okay.
When she gets Christina as a baby, just like you said, everything was perfect.
Right.
Perfect. And she took that baby in this perfect nursery, and she said over and over, "Oh, I'm going to spoil you. I'm going to give you all the things you never had." And like that was her intention. But somehow it just gets
warped.
Yes, because she's saying you're at the moment you're thinking, "Oh, she's going to love her and dote on her and give." So it's just interesting to me. That was the thought she was having in that moment, but it doesn't stay that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, the movie jumps ahead, as I said, and now Christina is about 8 or 9 years old. And it was a sudden jump.
Yes, yeah. And so at this point, she's also adopted a baby boy, Christopher, that I mentioned earlier. But the movie really focuses on Christina. There's a few things with Christopher, and then he comes back in the end also. And there's some things about Christopher that I do need to ask. But again, that focus is on Christina. And at this time, we see she throws Christina this huge, very lavish birthday party, so we're still in line with thinking, oh, she's doting on her and she's giving her the world and this is amazing. And it is. It's an amazing party. Don't get me wrong.
The movie was crazy, like monkeys and horses and
the party.
Famous carousel, like that famous carousel scene where they're on like the horses together, right? But it was fancy.
But don't you think a part of that was the publicity?
Yes. And I have a question about that. And I want to
Okay.
see if you girls noticed it. Like Joan's talking to the camera and Christina's like, opening her gifts and all that. And there are these like random soldiers there. Like,
I did
who are
notice.
the soldiers?
Yes,
I don't
remember.
know.
Publicity
Unless
is all I can think, Amanda, like
It
you
was
just said.
it was for
it
publicity
was,
because they had the camera guy there taking pictures for the studio.
Yeah.
So it was
And
all publicity.
yeah. And then of course, after the party, what does Mommy Dearest tell Christina about all the gifts that she got?
she can keep one
She can keep one,
that she had to
That's
give the others to less fortunate children.
which
Yeah.
would have been fine if the little girl had known it on the front end.
Yeah, or even like, I mean, she was like, pick which one you want. I don't know. It was hard. I mean, for a child that young, I don't know. It was
tough.
it was a very confusing for a child, I think, a very confusing moment.
Yes.
Like, wait,
Yes.
what? Why are you giving me? I'm so
I
confused.
know.
I have a
But
question.
Uncle Greg came to the
Yes,
rescue. He brought her in a bracelet, and that
Mhm.
little girl played her cards right too. Though
She
she
did.
was no fool, but she's like, "Oh, Uncle Greg, it's so beautiful, but Mommy says I can only keep
Only keep
one
one.
present." And of course, Mommy Dearest
Mhm.
gave in, and she got to keep the doll that she had chosen and Uncle Greg's bracelet.
She did. And I was like, thank goodness, because I was afraid Mommy Dearest was going to say, make a choice, Christina. And Christina was going to choose the bracelet, and Mommy Dearest was going to beat the snot out of her for not picking the doll that she gave her.
Yeah,
So I was
maybe
like,
so.
whoo, she really dodged a bullet there. But okay, I have a question for y'all. Mom, you may be able to explain this to me because this is before my time. What was the thing that the little boy was always that strap? And then remember he was like strapped in his bed and he would have to unhook himself from the bed.
I
Did
missed
y'all
that.
not see this?
I
I
missed it.
did.
Oh my gosh. Real fans, I am so upset right. I'm gonna have to find the clip to show y'all.
Okay.
So there was at the first time I saw it is when it was at the birthday party when they were taking pictures or doing something, and then Joan handed him off to the nanny, and he had this like leather strappy thing that looked kind of like what we would think of as kids with a leash, but it was
Mhm.
like leather. Okay. Then which we're going to get to, but it's the scene. No, it's before that. He gets into bed and it's like around him and it's strapped, it's like hooks to him. He has to like unhook it to get out of bed.
That's weird.
Maybe so he won't fall.
But we see it in the scene where she has the hanger and Christina goes in to clean the bathroom. He gets himself out of the bed and she even says in the dialogue, she's like, oh no, no, no. Christina says to Christopher, he's like, I'll help. And she's like, no, 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 no. You just go hook yourself back in.
I don't know. You'll have to
Y'all,
research that.
I am devastated that you do not, because
I
I
missed
need to
it.
know what this is.
Well, you'll have
Did
to
children,
research it.
Mom, but did children used to have straps to hook them in
No.
bed?
No.
No.
Okay, well, I'm going to show you because it was in multiple scenes.
Okay. Well,
I can't, real fans, let me know if you know what I'm talking about because I'm not crazy. All right, that was a huge question I've been dying to ask y'all, and you didn't even know about it. Well, skip ahead a little bit, and we're all out at the pool on a beautiful Sunday out at Joan's house. And it's interesting because they're all out there, and then Greg has to leave for a meeting or something. And while he's walking away, um, Joan says, oh, who wants to take a swim or something? And Christina's like, Mimi, they both get in the pool.
but she's already in the pool. When she's like, who
Right.
wants to go swimming? She's already swimming. She's in the
Right.
pool.
Right. So Joan gets in with her. They put on their swimming caps, which is hysterical. And Joan's like, I'll race you. And she gives her a little bit of a head start, but of course she completely beats her. And then like she's out of breath and she's like, let's race again. I'll give you a bigger head start. And of course she beats her again. It's just so antagonizing. That's what she's
Yes.
like constantly antagonizing her. And of course, then she gets mad when Christina gets upset.
Yeah,
It's
I
crazy.
mean, when she gets upset and she says, I won't play with you anymore, man, she gets a spanking and gets put in the pool house until she is going to apologize. Like it's a tough one to watch. But after that, we go into what I think is one of the hardest scenes to watch. It may be the hardest scene for me to watch in the movie, even beyond the wire hangers. Is that Christina is playing dress up at her mother's vanity.
And this is what I told you all she claims is really true. That when she walks in, she sees Christina. When Joan walks in,
Right?
she sees Christina kind of playing in the mirror and putting on her makeup and almost playing like glamour star like her mom.
Yeah.
And she becomes enraged. She
Joan
cuts.
comes in and becomes enraged.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry. She starts screaming at her and grabbing her and chopping off the little girl's hair, and the girl's crying and screaming, saying, I can't go to school like this, Mommy. I can't go to school. And she's like, you will go to school. And she was chopping her hair off. And y'all, it actually made me think, I thought about this a few times before this. I think with the bracelet scene with Greg, I even thought about it with when she was racing her and she kept making her race over and over in the pool. I wondered, and there's some scenes later too, if she had a little bit of jealousy
Competition. Yeah.
Absolutely.
of the little girl, and
Hmm.
like she's not gonna get not that she was trying to get, not that she thought she was gonna get her man, but like, oh, I don't know. I just think there was something weird going on there.
I thought she was jealous of her.
I did too. There was definitely a sense of that. And this to me was part of that
Yeah,
also, like her seeing that.
that's a good point. All I could think of, not the scary part of it, but when it's all said and done, Mom, all I could think of was that horrible haircut I begged for when I was 4 years old and begged you and begged you and begged you. You tried to not get me to cut it, but I did. And then I cried for what, about 3 days, Mom, every time I looked in the mirror.
Probably.
What did
Oh
you
my goodness.
what did you say, Mom? Were you just like, I told you?
Okay.
She can't even talk. She's laughing so hard. She said, probably.
Well, that is definitely speaks to where I got my parenting style from then, Mom, because one of my daughters recently told me my parenting style was suffrage and silence. That if you're something you when you were little, something was you were wrong or has it, I would just say, you're fine, you're okay. Like,
Oh, yeah. Well,
you're
I
fine.
did that too.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you have
Absolutely.
to do. Suffer in silence. You're fine.
So, as we go on through the movie, we come to a big Hollywood scene. There's a dinner scene, and Joan and Greg are going to dinner, and they get out of the car, and Joan's signing autographs and talking to fans and paparazzi. And Greg gets tired of waiting. He goes on in. He runs into Louis B. Mayers, and when she comes in and realizes that Greg has left her and now she has to dine with Mr. Mayers and the bankers from NYC, she is pissed.
Yeah, this is a great example, Mom, of what you were talking about, how in front of the crowd, she was, so glamorous and beautiful and wonderful and professional. But as soon as the crowd's not there, as soon as the fans are in front of her, she'll let her rip. Um, she actually gets drunk, and when they go home, she and Greg go home that evening, they get into it, and Greg leaves, and she's left saying, if you leave, don't ever, you'll never come back to this house again. And he's like, Peace out. Bye.
Yeah. And then that next scene, we see she's cutting him out of all the pictures and even frames one she cut him out of.
It was the one Christina and Christopher are walking down the stairs to breakfast, and you see this framed picture of all of them, and his head's cut out. It is
Yes.
so psycho.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, she's totally crazy. At this point, it just like pushes her over the edge.
It does.
But I think that before this incident, you can kind of see in the movie that Greg's seeing some of this, like he sees the whole pool scene when
Yeah.
she's making her race, and he's like, he doesn't like that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't too
And the
surprised.
birthday party scene too. Like he was appalled that she wasn't going to let him keep the bracelet.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, it's right around here where I think it is right around here where Christina is talking to the dolls, like Joan would talk to her and Christopher about being bad. And later, when she comes back, her dolls are gone. And she tells Joan.
Somebody took my baby dolls or something like that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And realizes that her mom is the one that took them. And after all, they were spoiled. And Joan says, now they won't wake you up when you need your rest. Because I think this was after when she and Christopher were playing in the yard and made all that noise and it woke her up. And she got so mad.
That's right. Yes.
And she sent her to her room. And so she was like playing with her dolls and just, I mean, that's what kids do. They act out what
she was mothering like her mother. And Joan didn't like seeing that in the mirror.
No.
So a little more crazy coming for y'all. We're back to kind of those movie star moments, and Joan is called into a big meeting with Mayor, and he tells her it's time to leave MGM, and she doesn't like it.
Well, later that night, she storms outside in a rage and she calls for her children. She gets the housekeepers to get the children up, and she's chopping down the trees and pulling out the rose bushes, and she wants the children to help her. And she asks Christina to go to the garden little room and get shears and an axe to help her chop down these trees.
It was horrible.
And sidebar, I read that Christina said that was actually not a true scene, this did not happen.
Okay.
So just letting fans know that. So afterward, we kind of jump ahead, and there is this moment in time where Joan is really wanting this part for a movie. And I'm sure that this was a time in their lives when things were good and happy. Mm-hmm. And she has Carol Ann and Christina run lines with her to practice for the audition.
Yep. And go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and it was a big deal because apparently she had to do the screen test, which Joan Crawford, that was beneath her, apparently.
Yeah, yeah. And when they're practicing, she actually slaps Carol Ann a little bit like I heard Ryan Reynolds did not too long ago on the set. And you can tell it takes Carol Ann, by storm. And then she's so shocked, and then she's trying to explain to Christina why her mom was acting this way and that it was just horrible that she had to take that screen test. And then that very next scene, I guess we're to assume that she got the part because it was for Mildred Pierce, and they're listening to the Oscars, and Joan is up for Best Actress for Mildred Pierce, and she wins, and they go crazy. And I don't know if they didn't. I guess maybe they didn't have the actresses and actors at the Oscars in the day. But anyway, after she wins.
No, that's not what it was. You didn't hear her say she had told them she was home with pneumonia.
Oh, yeah. She didn't want to go. I missed that. I totally missed that. So anyway, she's home. She won, and she grabs her family, and Carol Ann opens the door from the side so that Joan can make a grand entrance for the paparazzi. And there's a huge celebration outside her home.
Yeah, I guess the pneumonia didn't have her down for too long.
I guess not.
And then, y'all, we get to the most infamous scene of all. Joan bursts into Christina's room in the middle of the night, and she actually is going into the closet and she's admiring her clothes, and she all of a sudden sees there is a wire hanger in the midst of all of these beautiful clothes and these frilly hangers, and she goes nutso.
She does. But, she's got that cream on her face and she explodes and she's screaming and tearing apart the closet and beating Christina with the hanger.
Yeah, like
was
beating
horrible.
her. It's
It
awful.
was horrible, Mama. You're right.
It was really, really bad. Yeah, it was like when we used to get spankings. I'm just kidding.
Well, I was going to say, Mommy Dearest use a hanger, but Mom, what did you used to use to swat our little legs if we
Fly swatter.
a fly swatter? That's right. Mama would
That's
say,
right.
"Don't make me get that fly swatter off the top of the fridge."
That's
No,
right.
Mama, don't get the fly swatter.
That thing hurt. Well, she was really beating her, and she goes into the bathroom, and so she's like, "Is this floor look clean to you?" And Christina's like, "Yes, Mommy." Anyway, it wasn't clean enough for Joan, and so she starts throwing around the scouring powder everywhere and leaves Christina. She's like, "You clean this mess up." And so she leaves her in there to clean it up. And that's the part where Christopher gets up and says, "Do you want help?" And she says, "No, go hook yourself back in."
I was traumatized, I guess, from the beating.
Yeah. But then it jumps again. So after this incident, we jump ahead, and Christina's now about 16, and it's like she is, whatever she's done, Joan's just had it with her, and so she's taking her to boarding school. I can't remember what the straw that broke the camel's back was, but she's begging her not to be sent away, and she promises she'll be good. "Please don't send me away. Please don't send me away."
Yeah. But before she's sent off, I'm just going to say real quick, there are two scenes that I just want to mention. One was the Christmas show, which we know was all promo, but at the end when they all said, "Merry Christmas to all and to all a good night." I don't know. I
So
just
weird.
thought that was a funny scene. But then there was that date came, Mr. Gilbert, to pick up Joan, and Christina just walks right in and fixes him a scotch, and he tastes it and says it's strong, and she's like, "I fix it that way for all my uncles." And I don't know, that was just the weirdest scene.
It was weird. And
he
said, "I'm not your uncle." And actually he goes up to Joan's bedroom.
Yes.
And she brings her a drink and is like, "I brought you a fresh one, Mommy."
Yep.
Weird. Okay, so back to boarding school. Christina seems to be doing really well there. She's in acting classes and she seems really happy. But Mom, did the older Christina, the girl who played the older Christina, remind you of anyone? The way she
Yes.
looked?
She
Yes.
looks like one of your friends.
Who did she remind you of, Mom?
I don't know.
She looks
Well,
just
we're
like
gonna
Miss
tell you.
Mary Norval.
Yeah.
Go
When she
back
was younger?
and watch it, Mom.
Yeah, when she was
She
younger,
looks
like in her
just
younger
like
days.
Miss Mary Norval for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's cute as a button.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's in this scene that we see Christina and Joan have dinner together right around this time, and Joan is still controlling her. She orders their steak rare, which Christina didn't like when she was little. She still doesn't like it. And then Joan starts telling her how times are hard, and she has worked it out so that Christina can do a work trade program for her room and board. And in that conversation, she asked Christina to come home to help her with chores because things are just so bad. And when she goes to help her mom with the chores, like, first of all, they've got like the kerchief and all as they're doing the work. Oh, let me keep the hair out of my face. And but we still hear Tina calling her Mommy Dearest, which, by the way, Joan Crawford did want to be called Mommy Dearest. And we hear Tina tell her mom that she loves her.
We also see in this part, it's not when they are down in the laundry, it's later, I think, when they're upstairs in the main house. She sees a bunch of clothes or something that Joan has bought. And Carol Ann is like, "Oh yeah, Joan just bought these." And it's this moment where she realizes, "Oh, well, we don't have enough money for school, but
Right.
mom has enough money to buy all these fancy clothes."
Yeah, it
So
was
that was interesting.
definitely a visit of revelation because later that night or during that visit, Christina finds her mom passed out on like the Chase Lounge in her dressing room, and she freaks out and she tells Carol Ann to call for an ambulance. And Carol Ann said, "We don't need to call an ambulance. She's drunk." And that's when Christina begins learning that her mom is struggling with alcoholism.
Well, then Christina is going to get in a lot of trouble because she gets caught sneaking away at school and kissing a boy. And they have to call her mom, and she ends up getting in a lot of trouble. And it really
Yes.
wasn't a big deal. And the lady, even the lady, like the head of the school, tries to explain that these things happen. Like it's okay. Well, that makes Joan mad too,
Yeah,
that
and
the
she's in
school,
a
that would
rage,
happen at the
and
school.
yeah, and she starts accusing the school of what are they teaching those kids there, and basically she pulls Christina out permanently, and then on the way home, did y'all notice that she pulls the flask out of the glove compartment?
Hmm.
Mom, I never remember you
Yeah.
pulling a flask out of the glove compartment.
No, I never did that.
We were never that bad that she had to do that. She might have
She
a
might
Diet
have
Coke.
had to have a big old glass of iced tea when we were growing up, but
Yeah.
I don't think we ever drove her to drink, thank goodness.
That's right. Well, then they make it back home, and there's a reporter. And the reporters there doing a story on Joan, like a positive, we think we're led to believe like it's a positive piece. But then it comes out that Christina was expelled.
But she wasn't
And
expelled. Joan pulled her
you're
out.
right.
And so Christina's like, "You're lying." And they get in this big fight in front of the reporter. Joan slaps Christina, and she had to slap her twice because Christina didn't flinch. And Joan said something like, "You love to make me hit you." There's this huge fight. The reporter's seeing it all. And ultimately, Joan tries to choke her. It was
I
bad.
know. It was bad, and I was like glad the reporter saw, or that the reporter saw it. So some more time passes. Of course, Christina's getting older, and now Joan marries Alfred Steele, CEO of Pepsi. And this is true. This is
Yeah.
really part of what happened in her life.
And so Christina comes home from Catholic school to meet Alfred. And it's so funny. She says, "Hello, Daddy. I'm Christina," which was a little weird. But she, as I said, she is now coming home from Catholic school because
No, no,
that's
no.
where
It
they
wasn't.
enrolled her.
Time out. It wasn't Catholic school. It was like a where they send Fräulein Maria. Like it's the convent.
Oh,
I
I
don't
just
think
thought it
it's
was
like
Catholic
Catholic
school because they
school.
said she had
No,
no
no, no.
privileges.
Yeah.
It's a
She was
It's
under
convent.
the strictest discipline. I
uh-huh.
did not realize that. Went over
Yeah,
my
she sent her
head.
to a convent. She
Oh,
like for just like Fräulein Maria. Oh yeah.
Oh, well, and
Uh-huh.
amongst all of this, Amanda, Joan is married to the Pepsi man and her spending is out of control.
Well, Joan's spending is out of control. I mean, yes, they have a ton of money, but she can't rein it in. They're trying to renovate this huge apartment in New York, and she just can't stay within the budget. She doesn't know what a budget is, basically. And she's spending all this money, and Christina is there visiting the apartment, and she's living on her own, and she asks for a little bit of money to help get by this month. Joan says no, absolutely not. But Alfred, when she leaves, walks her out into the hall and secretly gives her some money. And it's
I
so
know.
sweet.
I loved that part. I loved that
I
part
know, it was
because
really
it
sweet.
made me think of something Daddy would do. Like if we had asked Mom for something and she had
Uh-huh.
said no,
Uh-huh.
that we could have asked Dad and he might have done
Uh-huh.
it. And by the way, I
Uh-huh.
just have to say, where is Christopher right now? Like we haven't
Oh,
seen him in a long time.
we have not
Um,
seen him since he was hooking himself in the bed. That's the last time I saw that kid.
Well, sadly, Alfred dies, and Joan realizes that he has left them in a lot of debt. And it's because of all her frivolous spending. But
Mhm.
the Pepsi board is telling her about all the debt, and they want her gone and paying it all off, but she fights to stay on the Pepsi board. And she actually said something like, "Don't F with me, fellas. This isn't my first rodeo." And just
No, it
FYI, I
was.
wanted to say one other thing. Whenever they were doing that renovation, Amanda, that same portrait was over the fireplace.
Oh yeah, girl, she's not letting go of that portrait. Um, well, time passes and we see Joan visiting Christina at her little apartment, so cute, and
Mm-hmm.
things seem to be more peaceful and it just seems like a normal visit from mom. And Christina's talking about that she's going to audition for a soap opera.
Yeah. And Joan tells her, well, that'll be good practice. I thought it was condescending. But in
It was.
the very next thing is that Joan gives her this beautiful pearl necklace with a diamond clasp. And maybe I missed this, but it didn't seem like she really had a why she gave it to her. It's just like, I want you to have this. Yes?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
felt generous in that moment, I guess. But so Christina gets on the soap opera and she's doing well and making her way. And I'm thinking, this is so great. Well, she all of a sudden needs an appendectomy. She gets appendicitis. So she calls Joan for help. Joan comes to visit her in the hospital and she asks her agent to go see Joan so they can kind of
Yes.
figure this out.
And Joan agrees to help. Her definition of helping is to go to Christina's soap opera set and fill in for her while she's gone. And there's like not a love scene, but Christina has a love interest on the show that's more her age. And so it's awkward because she gets to take her place on the
It's
show.
it's so weird because there's no it's not like she's a different character. She's playing Christina's character
Yeah, it's kind of
as
like
her
taking the place today of Christina is her mom, Joan.
it was so weird.
It
So
was
weird.
cringe. But I have to say, this was one of my favorite things the movie did is when Christina was watching it from her hospital bed, you saw it in black and white. But when we were seeing them actually film the scenes, we saw it back in color as the
Oh yeah,
viewer
you're
of the
right.
movie. I loved that.
Yeah. Well, and Christina did not like her mom doing
No,
it.
she
Like you could
didn't.
tell that she was just not happy with that. So now we move toward to the end of the movie. And of course, Joan passes away, and we have Christina and Christopher at her funeral. And Christina tells her mother she loved her and that she's free. And we see her laying in the coffin, and it's, very dramatic.
Yeah. And at the reading of the will, when Christina and Christopher learn they've been disinherited, Christina looks at her brother who says that she always has the final word. And you just see a look in Christina's eye that makes us know that her mother is not going to have the final word.
Well, she says something like, she says a line like, does she?
Oh, maybe she
Or
says,
something.
does she? I
She
was just
says
thinking
a
it was.
line that makes you know, oh no, girl, she's gonna write a book. Um, I thought that was didn't understand why did she cut them out of the will? I just don't, I mean, that was
It's
awful.
only for reasons they'll know.
Right. But anyway, that is one of the things I know I said earlier, but that was really true. She cut Christina and Christopher. I don't think she cut, well, I shouldn't say that. It didn't say that the other two were cut out, but Christina and Christopher were. Um, all right. What do y'all think? How does it hold up?
Mom, what do you
I,
think?
I think it was a good movie. But I think all movies like that are not necessarily everything in them is true, is factual. But I think enough of it is, and especially with her cutting them out of the will,
mhm.
that there was some real unnatural, unhealthy feelings in that family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But I think
Some
you're right,
mental-
Mom. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it
think
was a
definitely-
really good movie.
And Mom, I think definitely probably some mental health issues.
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
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 Amanda, what do
I
you
thought it
think
was
about it?
I thought it was a great movie. And I do think that a lot of times, I think I've said this in other types of movies like this we've seen that are more, even when we talked about Three Amigos, because it was set in a different time period.
Mm-hmm.
I think because it was historical and set in a different time period, those tend to hold up to me a little bit better because it's not so steeped in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's of a different time. But I mean, I think it's very interesting in knowing what we know. And like you said, Mom, the truth of the matter is if she cut those two out of her will, that was very telling that there was some truth to what Christina was saying because she didn't cut them out of the will for nothing.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something I liked about this movie was kind of the grandness of it all that it captured from that time. I enjoyed that. So this kind of goes a little bit to what both of you said. Like I loved the big Hollywood stuff and what we got to see of that. So
yeah, I agree. And I agree that it's a different time period.
Well, Mama, thank you so much for being here with us. We loved having you on this episode.
Well, I
Oh my
enjoyed
gosh.
it very much.
Mom, did you have so much fun?
Yes.
Are you going to come back and do some more with us?
Just say maybe, Mom.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, we love you, Mama. And since
Love
this
you
is
so
coming
much.
out on Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day.
Mother's
You're
Day.
the best. We're just the best we could have ever asked
Thank
for.
you. You're the best daughters I could have had.
Well, thank you. We love you so much.
I love y'all too.
All right. Well, real fans, it is time for clues for next week. So let's see if you can guess what movie we will be rewinding.
All right. Clue number 1. A new kid in town finds out fast that fitting in isn't easy.
Clue number 2. It only takes one quiet neighbor to change everything.
And clue number 3, who knew that learning to wax a car could change everything?
Think you've got it? I bet you do. Don't forget to message us with your guesses.
And if you're loving the show, make sure you subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and send a screenshot to hello@realsistersrewind.com. We're going to send you a sticker if you give us some love.
Also, don't forget, you can follow along on our Instagram at real_sisters_rewind.
Thanks for rewinding with us. We will see you next week for another's 80s classic. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.